Thank you, councillors. Meeting reconvened at 1:22 p.m. I ask for somebody to now move that we receive the councillor information correspondence, please. Councillor Peoples, seconded. Councillor Hanson, those in favour, 7-0. Anything to stand out for comment or noting, councillors? Or all to be noted? Anything you'd like to?
My only comment was obviously the thanks from the True Knowledge Festival. The soccer management plan, it's good to read through that just to be across it. The same as the flooding.
Only thing I'd note, Shane, just get you to perhaps acknowledge the correspondence, or Jenny perhaps, the correspondence from the TOK, and just ask if we could get a bit of an idea where and how they acquitted the money that we gave them, so that we can look at ensuring that what we've appropriated in the budget is suitable for what they, so A, how they've done it, and B, whether they expect to wish to utilise it in a similar manner moving forward. Okay, that'd be great. No. I'll probably preempted somebody's question in that space, but anyway, we did talk about it. So, questions, councillors? Somebody move we receive the planning and development report, agenda item 333. Councillor Peoples, seconded Councillor Plum. Those in favour? Carried. Did you have a question, councillor?
I just wanted to know about the fees for that stopper. We put that in with this, or do we just?
You'll have another report to the next meeting.
Oh, great, cool. That's it.
Planning and development questions.
Statements read. Councillor Arthur, the summary list of plannings, what you want to see.
Thank you.
And alphabet order.
Yes. Oh, that one.
Councillor Plum, if that wasn't so funny, I'd nearly rule that out of order. Inappropriate meeting misconduct.
Oh, okay.
That'd be strike one for you.
I'm just trying to work out how I do it, because I don't put the names in there.
He's right.
He's right.
Chronological is fine.
Oh, unreal. All right, any further questions?
I expect to see that change a bit in the coming years. Economic development from Morgan.
I have somebody please move that Morgan's report be received. Thank you, Councillor Rogers, seconded Councillor Hanson. Those in favour, 7-0. Obviously, the big news since the last meeting has been around the BRES. And as I've outlined today, there will be further meetings to enact our agreement. And further reports to be lodged in that space. The councillors, you have the 17th of July in your diaries, which is a Monday before our next general. We will probably be looking to do at least a part of that day as our visioning session revisit to restart that process. But we will have some policies to review because I genuinely want us to adopt our policy to create standing committees, similar to that, and because I think we have to put that one first in, so that then when we get to a policy area where I lose a quorum, we can actually still enact the policy. So if we do that one as a procedural one first, and then other policies like procurement can then flow from that process. Okay, so we will look to develop some time aside on that day, but I think if we start the day fresh with that visioning session would be what my expectation would be, Debbie. Let's start at our normal time of 8:30 and then have through till, depending on how long it takes, through till about lunch, and then restart after lunch with policy.
Mr. Mayor, being new, do senior officers attend, or is that just you and the councillors?
No, that one will be DMs as well.
Oh, okay.
DM, senior staff, director of works, that sort of, because it encompasses an understanding of where council's vision for the region is, and I think it's really important that the DMs have more than just a one-page report on what that goes to understand the individual nuances of council and council laws in that space. And if we fill those policies in the afternoon, there could be areas that genuinely intersect. Like, so the other thing we could actually do is a standing orders policy and the procurement policy in the first day. Well, your input as officers who intersect with that policy on a multiple times a day process would be invaluable. Sorry, the BRES is obviously just fantastic news. It's almost a little bit surreal. We've been pushing for it for so long, and at no stage did I ever get a feeling that the state wouldn't support it. In fact, it was to the contrary. But as things take a period of time to play out, you just start wondering how long is it really going to take and why the hold up. But patience is a virtue, and between Ross and myself and all of you and a whole host of others, we've played that patient game, and the state's definitely rewarded us. And the reach out he and I have both had since the budget from federal government ministers wanting to be a part of what the BRES future looks like is tremendous. And that's not cynical reach out, that's legitimate. They'll jump on board, whether it be with extra water for producers to grow biomass material or assistance with NAIF application funding. So it's real. It is real economic development. I don't think we should get, once again, too far in front of ourselves. Some of the big ticket items in there are going to take a little while, realistically. Like, we're not going to see hydrogen production in Barcaldine in the next 6 months. We're probably not going to see a wind farm established in the next 5 years. But two of the smaller businesses, one of which is already an existing Barcaldine small business, and another one is owned by Barcaldine living somewhere else. Between them, they're talking 17 full-time positions. They're like, so two small businesses opening up in your community or enhancing their footprint in your community with 17 FTEs. That's I don't know. Maybe I'm overwhelmed by small things, but I think in a town or a community of Barcaldine or our Barcaldine Regional Council, that's a good first step, and then very quickly but what I'm saying is those two smaller businesses will probably move in the earlier stages of stage one, and then very quickly will also be the tyre recycling opportunity. Not quite so many employees there, but a really good thing to get those tyres out of our dumps and everyone else in Western Queensland, and even ag, the amount of properties that have got thousands of truck tyres tucked away over collectively. And then, of course, the big one, the protected horticulture, it's the crown and the jewel to be able to think that within 3 years, if their due diligence progresses well and they reach final funding decision, to have 180 full-time equivalents here, that's big stuff. So yeah, I'm a bit excited about that, as I'm sure, and a note from all of your messages over the last couple of weeks you are as well. One thing we shouldn't slip over too much is that Water for Economic Development that's mentioned there, the AEC report for that's due next week. It'll be still draft report at that stage. I'm happy to, even though it's a rapid document, I'm happy to share that with councillors. Just bear in mind that it is commercial in confidence and a draft document and actually product of a rapid process. So, and it will specifically address two issues for us: the utilisation of water from the Great Artesian Basin and the utilisation of irrigation water from surface water, from the Vertigan, which is in our case the Ballyenda and Alpha Creek catchments. So there's substantial opportunity there, and Ross Garno, who was one of the authors of the Bradfield Commission of Inquiry, the chair of it actually, is going to discuss further advocacy around what is identified in that report with me when he's out here in a few weeks, and then we're going to undertake some lobbying with the state and federal government to kick loose a consideration around those two opportunities. Councillor Peebles, did you have a question there?
Mr Mayor, yes I do. With regards to the 180 horticulture positions, what opportunities are there for young people kicking off they want a career? What sort of things could they look at?
Oh, well, there's a whole host of things, both technical, like skilled and unskilled labour. So there's tertiary qualified positions in there as well. So everything from physically harvesting the product, through to analysing the chemical composition of the water on a constant and daily basis and medicating the water with the right amount of nutrients, which is where the horticulturalist impact is. Electricians, there's a big calling for electricians in a facility like that, plumbers. So that's the skilled side of it, and then there's the unskilled people.
Is there something we should do in that area with regard to having a look at what positions might be in demand, and do we go to our schools and say to some of our kids in high school that these opportunities may come up?
You note that I haven't used the name of the protected horticulturist, but those are the conversations we've had when they're intentionally private, but once they reach that decision, making sure that they're very keen to get out into the community and get ahead of it and start that profile building about what style of employee they need and the skills base that they need or don't need, either way. Yeah. So they'd be a very big part of partnering with the council and helping to prep the community for what requirements there'll be from a skills and labour basis moving forward.
I see that as a whole careers aspect, because all the exponential stuff that goes with that, from council's own needs to the community to everything else. It's a lot of time to be around.
And I think probably you need to think a little even, like we would need to work with them to think a bit more broader than even our local schools. To probably branch out to TAFE Skills Queensland and look at what growth capacity they would have in our region. So to bring some TAFE training opportunities instead of students having, or it's not necessarily students, but people having to travel away for elements of their TAFE training in any TAFE skills, like a plumber or electrician, to have some capacity for that classroom component to be delivered here if the market is going to call for a substantial number of those trade skilled qualified people.
Pastoral Agricultural College in Buckle.
Or a variant thereof, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that water piece and the BRES are both very promising areas of economic development for the region and not unlinked. Any other questions? I can safely say to you there haven't been too many conversations that I've been a part of with the truck stop development. I'm sure there's a bit of reach out from time to time to Morgan. That's sort of a bit of a flash in the pan, that one. Could come off. Could be a land banking opportunity for somebody else, who knows really. It's listed there, it's legitimate, there has been reach out, there's been meetings. Probably take that all with a grain of salt at this stage. We've been on blunt advice there. From my understanding of what's been put to me, I wouldn't expect to see capital investment anytime soon. If council was prepared to gift them a very large parcel of land as per their initial request, then you'd see a land transfer, but I'm not sure that you'd see an investment in the infrastructure that we hear about for maintaining a futuristic 24/7 truck stop.
Well, need our land too, Mr. Mayor.
I couldn't agree with you more, Councillor.
Sorry?
I couldn't agree with you more. It could have more benefit to us for housing and industrial support for real economic development such as the BRES. Okay, can I have move a please for receiving the workplace health and safety, work health and safety report? Councillor Arthur, seconded Councillor Peoples. Those in favour? Councillor Plum, 7-0.
Just before you is a summary of the stats. We're collecting them accurately, so you'll see that even our NIMS isn't now reported. So NIMS could turn into something more serious. So we want to know what's going on. So it's just there for viewing. Any specific questions?
Sorry.
No, you go.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the first paragraph of the background notes that some incidents are still reported on paper, so this is only a snapshot. Do we not have the capacity to transfer that into the SkyTrust? Or it's just
it's a training exercise that not everyone why we thought everyone was skilled up in it, they're not. So we're re-looking at all our options for reporting, that being one of them.
Took the words out of my mouth. I wasn't worried about the paper transfer. I was just wondering whether the uptake of Sky Trust had been well received. Are we looking at?
Looking at options.
Right. Other questions? Councillors, following a conversation with the Deputy Mayor yesterday, who's been in close consultation with some members of the Jericho community, and Jericho's been a little bit, in the past they've been a little bit aggrieved, and then other times they've been very divided about what day they want. This one hasn't, I won't say it's snuck up on us, but it has just jumped into the agenda. And I know there is ministerial deadlines around when we submit. However, we would not be outside of that deadline if we were to delay the decision on this until next month, to allow Jericho to provide us a little bit more clearer advice around what they want, because they don't all want, in fact, the vast majority are not interested in the slightest bit in the Alpha show, which is what has historically been. The problem we have, that it's a double-edged sword for us, because we've got Jericho staff that work out of the Alpha office that if they don't have a public holiday. But I think we found ways around that in the past. Maryborough and Aramac find ways around that, although this year they're different. Sorry. So I just, with your indulgence, can we perhaps go, as we have done in the past, and poll the region and just get their feedback and advice, and then we can either follow their polling or we can do our own thing, but at least then we've consulted the community around. Because I haven't had the same reach out, but I would be very aware that it's there, especially if Councillor Rogers has asked the question. If we just make this unilateral decision today, we could aggrieve people at Jericho completely unnecessarily, because I think it's immaterial to us what day they have. If we give them the day they want, well, the outcome's right. So with your indulgence, I'd like to leave this way on the table. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I had a few employees from Alpha asking would it be possible to have the holiday on the Friday or the Monday of the Alpha races, to either, because there was groups that wanted to help, and because it wasn't at RDO, they wanted to be part of Friday to help set up, and they couldn't do because they had to work. And then others wanted to be part of the group to sort of have a few beers and clean up and celebrate on Monday, and they can't because I just wanted to mention that to you.
Yeah, and I've had similar approach from other people wanting to shift the show holiday. The fact is, the Special Holiday Act, there's, if you have an agricultural show, that it's sort of it's a requirement that that's your holiday. That's where Jericho gets some leniency. Muttaburra skirt around it because the Muttaburra stock show, or whatever they want to call it, goes very close to fitting the definition of an agricultural show, but it's not. So they get the discretion to move that holiday to another day. But when you move that holiday away from it, it actually becomes a different type of holiday. So different leave parameters apply, penalty rates apply, and different groups don't even get the day off depending on their enterprise bargaining agreement. Whereas a show holiday, unilaterally everybody has to have off wherever it is. Whereas a special holiday for the Melbourne Cup, some public servants under their enterprise bargaining can't get it off.
So in saying that, Mr. Mayor, the Muttaburra Sheep Show is not
it's not recognised as an agricultural show. Not the same as here or Alpha's show. They're not recognised as the same class of event.
It's traditional.
It's also on the weekend too.
Yeah, but you can still have a holiday even when they're on weekends. You just have it on the Friday. So Emerald, for example, is on a weekend. No, Springshaws and Capella are on weekends, but they have the Friday for the show holiday.
We'll come back to you about ours too, Sean. We're not sure if that's right.
No, well, I would suggest if we're going to poll, we'll poll the whole community with 5 options for 5
references to the town.
with options for each town.
Yeah, because they were a little bit, the majority was the Melbourne Cup, but there was a few that were really for the 4-day weekend in October in Jericho, but they don't really have a clear majority, and like they wanted some more time to have a proper survey. There might even be a thing of having a holiday on a different random date when they have the big, if they want to enlarge their, show that they have their little Jericho bash, they can have.
So I think we put the couple of suggestions that are normal on there, whether it be Alpha Show, Barcaldine Show, Melbourne Cup, and then we put a box for other. And when people respond, if they've got an alternative date, well, that would be where that would go.
How do you normally body?
Well, we've done it online previously. Is it online?
We did paper-based as well. Post office at Jericho usually has a paper, because they get everyone coming to the post office, basically they can catch the whole.
So we can do both. Paper-based.
And how do you catch that people aren't voting twice?
You can't. But we don't ever get very many respond anyway, so those that vote twice only cover for those that don't vote.
Because there wasn't, because it was done on the website last year, Mr Mayor, I think, and there wasn't big response.
As well.
You did paper-based as well? There we go.
On the website, I think it's only allowed to vote once.
Unless you're voting from that device and that device and that device, because it can only register your IPC.
I thought it registered, you had to put your, when you voted, you put your email address in. They don't.
Why can't you?
Why can't you what?
Which email address or your name or something?
You can put any email address in it, but I would be surprised if it then sends you a confirmation to go and tick a box to say, right, I'll
Put your name on.
I don't know, I think it does. Send it actually.
Debbie, how does it work?
Yeah, no, it was just anonymous.
it only takes 15 minutes to create an email address.
I don't think we've got widespread systematic abuse of voting twice on it. We haven't ended up with results that people have said that's not the way we voted or anything, have we?
No.
We'll have a look at the qualitative data when we receive it. All right. Look for that to go out very shortly so that we can get the answers collated for the next agenda, which is only 2 weeks away.
And who is sending that out? Who is?
Me and Lily.
You are.
Myself and Lily.
Okay.
Right.
Do you require that to be moved, Mr Mayor?
I'm just looking to make sure it's right. Yes, I am looking for someone to move.
Am I on table?
No, we'll lay that on the table by consensus, please.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Barcaldine Region Scholarships 2023. Councillor Peoples moves, Councillor Gleeson seconds. Any debate? Those in favour? Carried. I'd just like to once again state publicly our thanks to George Bourne, Westech and the Alpha branch of the ICPA who are new to the party this year. It's allowed, along with our actually substantial contribution, for a record number of applicants to be awarded a bursary, and I think it is absolutely fantastic that anyone undertaking skills or tertiary training, you need a lot more than $4,000, but it's a really good help. You know, it's equivalent to several hours of part-time work, several textbooks, you know, a device, a bit of travel, some accommodation. It's real money, and I think they should be congratulated, those other organisations, for partnering with us in this respect and helping lead the way. Councillor Peoples.
Mr Mayor, we got 24,000 there by the look of that, but what is the what's our contribution at this stage?
3 fours is 12, so it must be 12,000.
12,000.
12, and we matched with 12 from the community.
What do more down the track, Mr Mayor, if you want?
Yeah, although I would suggest, just that having been exposed in the last few years to the number of applicants, we've probably found about what we, like, we're not, you know what I mean? Oh, you mean increase the size of the bursary?
Yes.
Okay. Yep, happy to have that conversation.
Yeah.
But each of these people are very worthy recipients, and I wish them all the very best. There's some names on there that are no strangers to a lot of people in this room. Yeah, they're very prominent members of our community, and we wish them all the very best with their further education.
Operational plan. Right. We have a discussion on this, please. Shane, can you lead us through this?
So, yeah, councillors, we have workshopped this a few times and consideration, we've now adopted the budget. The operational plan here is for our consideration. As I said, we've workshopped it, we've added some graphics just to make the document more readable. And I guess these are the actions and themes we've worked through a few times. Council were involved in this one, so I'm open to comments or any adjustments or considerations. It's your operational plan. It's our job to deliver it. I'm happy for any feedback or amendments. We'll go through the detail. That's what we worked through.
In councillor's hands here, really. Where you feel this was worked with their most recent one. So it should be relatively fresh, the outcomes and objectives. KPIs, just bear in mind these things are reviewed quarterly. So we've got the capacity to adjust if we feel we need something to happen in a little bit more accelerated time frame, or conversely have to push things back.
I guess we can trigger a few ones there. 1.5 in our first theme, our community cultural plan. We've had discussions about where that was at. Consultant for community amend, update and then implement. I think Councillor Rogers was having discussions on that one previously. I guess that's consistent with where we want to go with that.
3 years, Mayor, yes. The Queensland Arts requires the Radic community or the council to have a community, a cultural policy and a plan. It just makes it so that we're eligible to get that funding for Radic. So if we don't have them updated, we might lose our eligibility. So we've previously updated the policy, and since the plan now has been updated and it's just ready now to go out to the community for any further input or advice that they want to give us about that.
As we work through, 1.8 is obviously looking at, as council, we're talking about our new business systems, IT. Councillor Gleeson quite rightly wanted us to go through the review, so we've got that as expressions of interest to bring back to council as part of that process. A lot of these are about getting these project plans actually in front of council as we set out schedules, put it in front of council for consideration. The strategic waste management plan, we obviously know that's 2.4, second theme. That's a priority for us at the moment. So we want to see some development in that space. A lot of these other ones we've discussed quite regularly, but they're the highlights for that theme. Transport, we're obviously looking at putting in front of council some proper condition assessments and maintenance plans. We do have a meeting early July with work supervisors to flesh all that out and to look at how that's going to head forward. So once again, we can put a schedule in front of council. And you'll see that 3.4 where our maintenance and capital planning schedules will be developed. Planning scheme, we've obviously got the planning scheme. Well, I haven't seen it, or we have seen it sort of officially. We've now taken the next step now to start the process with the LGIP, and we have been in discussions with Real Planning to get the overlay on existing towns about where opportunities lie. So that's now moving forward. We're still looking for funding. The Mayor's been quite active in the space of meeting with members of Parliament, so that's still continuing. We've got some really good results out of that. The next one in 4.3 is obviously some progression on the Mudabarasaurus recognition.
We're still waiting for state government legislation, that's the problem. The parliamentary process for recognition of state emblems still hasn't been completed. But I did have strong words with leaders about their Mudabarasaurus.
Yeah, do we need to highlight that more?
No, it was forthright discussion.
I could have put it in here, but
I won't. Actually, I'll be honest enough to say I don't know that I won't.
no, so Mudabarasaurus, at any point did it actually go to the Flinders region? Or
Well, they found one up there.
so it would have been on holidays. It would have left our region to go there and then come back. Anyway, I did put that in there. So the other big one, 4.4, is actually getting our biosecurity plan in place and also our pest management plans with some proper mapping, so council can see where we've been and where we're going. Our housing strategy obviously is all subject to discussions we've had where we want to start. Put a white paper to you in the first quarter about housing options. Safety management system, we want that rolled out. That's coming close to about 2 weeks before we actually sign off on the 6 weeks consultation and stuff to roll that out. The one that I think is exciting, and that sort of adds in everything we've been talking about, 5.7, the consultation with the mayor and councils about a regional youth council, or how we've been able to establish support across all the schools, which the mayor will take the lead in. Are you happy with how it's just a broad enough statement?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need the detail probably from Queensland on how that can intersect, because we've got to follow their policy, so just a loose reference to an undefined reference would be better.
But they're our future leaders, so it's all in that space. And generally, in a nutshell, the council worked on this together. We've committed to your quarterly budget reports and amendments, accrual accounting. And the last one, 5.11, considering we're heading into a significant fire risk season, we want to work closely with emergency services to get those slide on water tanks and all that regions as designated, so move that forward as well as we can. So I'm not sure. The graphics were there from a council perspective if you're happy with the document itself. Resolution's not great on some. We've tried to recognise each different region. That looks like it.
Just 3 units to me. An observation of 1.8. Probably should consider that in the
1.8, that's our comms engagement plan.
CEO, it's got CEC.
That's communication engagement.
So that's Lily.
That's Lily. Councillor Rogers picked one up earlier with our district managers to recognise the Barkey, Brett Parker's district manager Barkey. But we want to be specific on that one. Try to make that change.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, 1.6. Promoting support mechanisms for not-for-profit organisations to reduce the reliance on council funding. When it says promotion and education of the community grants policy, does that mean community gambling? Because if we're just promoting our own grants, we're still relying on council funding. Like, should that be community gambling grants outside funding? Like,
so there's two elements to it. That was one of it. That was one element, was to secure external funding. But then there was the within the community grants policy, there's our community grants policy. There's certainly clear objectives that shows what your actual eligibility is for council funding and how you should secure or look for alternatives. So it's probably a combination of both, and you wouldn't limit it to purely the community gambling policy if you wanted it better. Program, if you want to, you'd probably just put external grant capacity, maybe.
Well, when we put in the KPIs that we'd actually provide assistance to our community groups or wherever that funding.
because our community grants, if we're just educating them only on that, it's just making them more reliant, really, I feel, on council funding. RADF funding is actually more of an outside funding than our community grants, because at least it's, you know, we only put 5,000 into that, where they put 25,000. But I was talking to a grant officer the other day from a different council, and they run quarterly workshops to assist the community, but on how to go for outside grants, not our own grant. But they might put a little bit in there, but yeah, mainly other grants, FRRR, gambling funding, like, so that it reduces the reliance on council.
Which is what that point is.
Yeah.
That was
the KPI.
KPI was to have workshops with our communities where they can source funding from.
Yeah. So just I would have more in there about outside funding, outside of council.
Well, you can just put in that KPI, we're sourcing external funding.
Because I think it's good for us to actually provide those opportunities for community groups, how to write applications, how to get grants, how to work.
When I was at the grant writing shop recently, workshop, I come back and talked to one group about the ARRR group grants, which they're now going to try and get a grant through that instead of asking the council for the money. But they were not aware of those grants.
And I know you missed the workshop. Our intent is to hopefully have a dedicated officer to develop these grants for look after some of the councils, but definitely community grants as well. Community groups to work to help them do it. Councillor Gleeson.
Yeah, I was going to follow up on what Councillor Rogers was saying about grants, because there's money out there if people know how to write grants and where to go. But my other question, in the corporate planning, 4.6, the additional parking locations on Oak Street, that's been going on for a while. There's still no, I haven't seen any signage. Are we still looking at feeding to the Queensland Railway or opening up sections over there on the northern side of the railway line for parking areas?
Still looking for locations anyway, yes.
There is the odd caravan that does park over there, but only from hearsay, I'd imagine.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I did have I was working on this with the Director of Works because I don't do car parking and stuff like that. So I was working with the Director of Works. And on the eastern side of Poplar Street, so from the eastern side down, that is actually council corridor. There is a council corridor there, and that's the area that we were looking at to do that. And I was just needed some guidance on what signage you can put on Oak Street because of the limitation of area in that area, because that's guided by main roads. So yeah, I will continue to have those discussions with the next director.
I would imagine a follow-up to that would be then that the rail or somebody would have to build a zigzag crossing like they have at the swimming pool end here. That'll be the next thing. If there is mobile cars and caravans parked there next year, that'll be the next thing that's going to have to happen.
That's right, Councillor Gleeson. Yeah. So yeah, and I think on the western side, that is railway corridor, and it's unfenced. There was lots of complications around that side, is what I'm led to believe, in the railway corridor. But we'll continue those. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Anything further for the operational plan? I think we might change the resolution here to the council adopts the operational plan. Please, Debbie.
Yeah, we have to adopt it, sorry.
Do I have a mover?
23.
Councillor Plum, second Councillor Hanson. For those in favour? 7-0. Can I have somebody please move that we receive the Corporate Financial Services Information Report? Councillor Plum, seconded Councillor Peoples. Those in favour? Councillor Peoples.
Went up to me.
Oh, sorry,
You
too
might
quick
need
for
to
me.
head down or something.
7-0. Right.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. This month has been the last 6 weeks or so has been focused on getting the budget together from my point of view. I did mention the contribution of the team earlier as a part of that. Also this month, from a finance perspective, in the last week or so, we have had Heather Byrne start as an interim finance manager for us. Heather's focus will be more around getting us through end of financial year and the audit and the financial statements preparation over the next 3 months while we're recruiting that role on a permanent basis going forward. So Heather's has spent some time in Western Queensland over the last few years, but has come back from across the ditch for the winter, and is happy to be here, and I'm happy to have her to take some pressure off. And so really, really good to have her on board. This month we did have the interim audit as well. There's been a few items we've still got outstanding from that around position papers that we need to address, which we're working through now to get that interim audit finalised. Following that being finalised, we will look to have an audit committee meeting to work through where we're going to get some sign off of those accounting positions so we can continue to move forward. Finalising the flood damage acquittals for the 18-19 event and the 2020 event. That was a big job we had to work through to provide the transaction data to support our expenditure claims. So that has been provided, and now we're just working through some final requests for documents to support some sample requests they've got.
I'll just jump in there. We can't understand how much work was involved in getting that together.
So that's nearly complete. We do have some good systems now with between GBA and ourselves to manage that process going forward and to ensure that I suppose the transactions are being managed and monitored appropriately, and we can make sure that's a smoother process for the current flood damage works that we have on. In the IT space, we have commenced the transition to Microsoft's 365 environment. So that is happening as we speak. Also, I completed a SAPSA course last week, which was provided by the Queensland Government, was funded by the Queensland Government through the Cyber Security Unit. Also, Aaron, our IT officer, undertook a CISSP course as well, which is a cybersecurity professional course as well. So that really, both those courses provided as part of the Queensland Government program for the Cyber Security Unit, which is a great initiative of the state government, where they are uplifting the local government's cybersecurity management, which we have tapped into. In the districts, I have been out and about in a number of our offices, did meet with, we got a report in this about the Alpha Gates, about some progress we've got there. That's coming up. Also met with the Rural Lands officers to look at some future planning on where that team's going, and tapping into what is I suppose a really good operating regional focused team, so which is good. Looking forward, getting through the audit and the financial statements over the next couple of months, and then also rolling out the budget that was adopted earlier today. Want to do some further information out to staff to provide some quality management reporting so they can monitor and track their budgets at a job cost level, and starting to begin our policy reviews over the next few months as well. So, that's my report. Thank you.
Questions? Move to the finance report, which I'm sure is probably where you do have questions. So definitely no questions further for that report. Okay. Can I ask someone please move that we receive agenda item 351, the financial performance report. Councillor Hanson, seconded Councillor Rogers. Those in favour? 6-0.
The financial report for this month was for the end of May. Provides an update on where we are against budget for council. So if we take a bit of a look into some of the detail there, on the second page of that report, the fees and charges are continuing to perform quite well and do provide are well above budget. The recoverable works income has improved from last month, and this is as much of our project work is being completed, and we are starting to see that money flow through as we make those final claims. The 100% prepayment of the federal assistance grant, which is now expected to be provided prior to June 30, it'll provide a significant improvement to our profit and loss actuals for the year. So that is a good boost for us to see well, we were expecting I think it was a 75% funding we had forecast in the budget, but now we'll see that 100%, so we'll see a positive result there this year as well. The material and services continues to be overspent, but that was as a result of our recoverable works and the amount of work we've done over and above where our budget was expecting. The capital grants is currently underfunded there. We do have some grants that we need to recognise where we've received money previously, so for flood damage. Needs to be recognised there, so we have that sitting in contract liabilities at the moment, and we will look to journal that in the next few days. Well, this month it was journaled across. The full $7 million though that is budgeted for won't be realised, because that was based on the full cost of that flood damage money being done and then recovered. As we didn't spend that much money, we can only spend to get the work done. We can only claim what we spent, so won't reach that $7 million, but we'll have a more positive result from the $500K that's there currently. If we look at our revenue for the year, fees and charges, I mentioned fees and charges, interest continues to be performing quite well, and we do have I mentioned the federal assistance grant as well. In expenditure, employee expenses is over budget, somewhat reflective of more operational work rather than capital focus for some of our staff. If we look at our individual programs for rural roads, town streets, plant and parks and gardens, so the plant program now has exceeded its budget for the year, and parks and gardens is running extremely close to its full year budget expended as well. The rural roads is currently well under budget as a result of the focus on flood events.
That might actually improve significantly this month. There's been a lot of contracts so
for rural roads. Okay.
Yep. That's fine.
Okay.
So Gentry Rules.
Yeah, we'll go well over the million by the end of this current month, but obviously your reporting is to
That's the end of May.
Yes.
So what about the Beach Street, Royal Town Streets was about?
That's not maintenance. That's capital.
That's capital. Oh, that's.
So we've had some talk at previous meetings about the rural roads and the amount of money we've expended there from an R2R point of view, needing to be matching what expenditure we have on R2R. So given the flood damage money, some of that we haven't claimed, won't be accepted as claimed, that amount, when added to the rural roads, will exceed that amount. So we are meeting our obligations under that agreement this year. Does that make sense? So there was a bit of flood damage money spent on flood damage this year that we haven't claimed, wasn't claimed, or wasn't accepted as part of the flood damage works. Because we have spent that on our roads, we are able to include that as part of our.
So where's it currently costed to?
It's costed to the road as a capital item.
Right, we're going to transfer
Go back to operation.
No, you don't need to transfer it to operations. It can stay in capital.
Yeah,
It's either on maintenance or construction of our rural roads. That's the own source funding. So is the requirement under the obligation, and that allows us to be meeting that. In the cash position has increased from last month due to the payment of rates. So this is, when I say last month, we're referring to April as compared to May. The rates being finalised in May, and also some of the recoverable works money for flood damage has started to roll in for those first two submissions that Council approved the works for today. And also there was the quarterly payment for the federal assistance grant come in as well. So from a cash in point of view, it was a positive month. The capital work summary, as we mentioned, the flood damage was completed in December, and that is where the big chunk of works is that was funded. That is not included in the revenue for the capital revenue. So that accounts, as 4.4 million is that amount. That's why there's that variance. Plant has a large list of items that are currently on order. There's some more detail on what they are in the project's progress report later in the meeting, and also our buildings and other structures has seen some minimal progress in the housing projects and a few other large projects that are now not being completed, undertaken. So that's why there's a large variance there. If we look at our cash going forward, so the unrestricted cash expense ratio is sitting at 3 months. That has seen unchanged for the last April and May. The alternate view around council's surplus cash, which is improved from last month. Now council has 2 months. There's a graph there on the last page of the report. Looking forward from a cash perspective, we do have some positive projections for our cash. So we have the federal assistance grant prepayment for 23-24 will be more than that 10 million that we've got noted there. And the main roads claim is still being finalised, which was what was processed as part of June. The emergent works claim is being prepared now for the April 2022 event and the January 23 event. And we also have the flood damage early prepayments for the remaining submissions from the January 23 event, as well as the finalising of the flood damage claims. So cash positive over the next few months. That's Mr. Mayor. So the report was just for receiving and noting.
Questions? Councillor Blaise.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Ian, could you explain to me again, please, why the employee benefits are 2.3 million more than the budget?
Yes, so when employee labour is costed out, there's two ways it ends up in the ledger. So it ends up operational expenditure. If it's costed to that, it'll end up through the profit and loss and appears in that list there. If it's capital expenditure though, if we're working on a flood damage job or anything like that, that will end up in the financial position, the statement of financial position. So in the asset as opposed to in the operational statements, because it's capital. So the variance is and if we've got more work happening in the operational space, so instead of the guys maybe working on a flood damage project, they're working on emergent works or a maintenance program. And that's what's happened. They've spent more time in the maintenance or on a main roads job, that which ends up in our operational statements as opposed to capital work.
So in all honesty, the real figure is not that.
The overall employee cost.
We haven't got a 2.3 million shortfall in our wages. It's just the way that it's been printed out.
It's where it's funded from.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we looked at our overall employee budget, the costs are where we expected them to be, but we do break it up between capital work and operational work, and that's just the operational estimate of what we had at the start of the year as part of the budget was understated as compared to the capital. So capital would be the other way, which we can see in the capital report. You can see the rural road, the money there is a lot less than what we expected.
So would that be a similar scenario with the materials and services being 6 million difference?
Yeah, so some of the things impacting our materials and services was the same thing as the employee benefits. So the Emergent Flood Works budget for this year was $1 million. We've had 2 events and it's costed about two and a half or 2.7 million for the year. So that between those two has ended up, that extra 1.7's ended up across those 2 jobs, across employees and materials and services. Also at the NDIS and our refuge collection contract as well from a materials and services point of view, because they're well over budget, that's where those costs are appearing in our, I suppose when we look at those expenses broken out like that.
Thank you.
Through Mr. Mayor, Dan, just talking about the overrun in the, say, rubbish like we've got. Where does the money come from? Like, say if we overrun a capital project, we've got to try and find the money from somewhere else. So if we overrun materials and services, where does that money come from? Where do we find that money to compensate for what we overrun?
So in practical terms, if we're going to overrun a budget of what we budgeted, we need to find where that money's coming from as well. So a lot of the cases for the materials and services and the employee benefits that are overrun there, it has been for works that are recoverable, so such as our NDIS, such as our Emergent Flood Works. So we've been able to spend that. Where we do have challenges is like the refuge collection contract, because that has costed us so much more than what we expected. We just have to find that out of our cash.
This means other jobs you can't do because we've had to fund.
So that's why, as part of the budget, we're looking at, do we make bigger increases to try and eat away at that deficit in the waste program because of that contract. Because what's happening overall in the budget is now that shortfall is being funded by general rates, effectively, or federal assistance grant.
I would believe we can be accurate, plus or minus a few percent for our project, no budget creep. We'll have more accurate.
Materials and services run over inside the original scope of a construction job for, say, TMR, then inevitably we wear that, it comes out of the margin that we make. But sometimes they run over because the scope changes. So that's fine because, as you said before, that's matched from grant revenue or sales revenue. But yeah, when it's an operational budget, say Parks and Gardens overruns by 200,000, which they're not going to be by that much, but they're running close. That's just purely funded straight out of our cash bank. It's just and often, even as Shane says, you do forego projects, but often when it's across portfolio areas, like say Parks and Gardens or commercial services activities, for example, all the best budget reviewing in the world, sometimes you can't stop it, you know, because a degree of overtime's happened or there's been some internal costing transfer. The only way then to stop it is either look at the employee benefits and unemployed people, or materials and services, don't buy any fuel for the mowers or things like that. So those things take structural reform. It's hard to, whereas capital projects is project management. That can be amended very much quickly on the run. Whereas when you've got just your standard business units, if they're consistently running over budget, there's structural things then that have got to happen. Like, are we, you know, booking too much overtime? Are we charging ourselves too much for extra water and all that sort of thing, which doesn't happen in our council stats, but yeah.
Additionally, you look at things like your service levels. So that's where that's a journey we'll look to start touching on over the next 12 months. Look at how many times do we mow different parks in town. And we might have different, depending on how we want to do that, we might have different levels. Level 1 park might be mowed every week, other parks might be mowed fortnightly, others might have different depending on whether it's wet season or dry season too. So you start to establish, and that's where you can start to use the service level to create understand exactly what that budget's going to be.
Coupled with enhancements in plan. So for example, the extra wide mowers minimising the hours that we're spending in parks, so you can adjust the service levels and then match plant requirements to suit. And I think the other thing, we've been so fortunate to have had 12 months of really good wet weather. We'd have worn out more mower blades and belts on ride-on lawnmowers in the last 12 months, and we'd have worn out in the 5 to 6 years prior to that collectively. Like, there'd have been mowers here that were 3 or 4 year old and probably still on their first set of blades and first belts. Well, they certainly would have worn them out by, this time, June, July last year. And that would, whilst it's certainly not millions and millions in the material services, it does add up, that's right. And I don't, I think you wouldn't consider this year's service levels to be what's required on the average of years for, say, Parks and Gardens, because of the fact that they were growing out of control faster than we could. You didn't have enough staff to get in. It was like painting Sydney Harbour Bridge. You get to one end of the town and go back and start again on the other, and you'd look like you weren't even there. But, notwithstanding that we hope it does, that's probably not likely to continue year in, year out, which means that the Parks and Gardens budget's actually done very well to stay under control. If we didn't budget for a year this bad, and for it to be so close to balanced means that somewhere along the line it's starting to. Yeah, it's good. Job costing might be a little bit more attention to detail there.
So just to note, that is likely going to run over.
Oh, we'll have to with 1 month to run.
Yeah. So that is the annual budget that's in that paragraph.
If I use an example, the wide area mower we put in Alpha, I don't have exactly hours, but our mower, he did something in 2 hours and normally take him a day. So he's
yeah, well, an acre block that he normally would mow was, so he didn't tell me time, but it was 13 passes
To 9
to
to 8 or
6,
something like that.
6, less than half the work. So you extrapolate that out, for example. So I think the next one of them to turn up comes to your area, Jenny. I think you're getting there.
all of Aramac.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, there's one due for here. If you just imagine that wide area mower mowing the racetrack, the cut down on the time involved in mowing the racetrack and Rob Chandler Park and so forth, there's going to be some measurable, well, that's a small park, but the area, for example, between the railway and the Cap Highway, those areas are big, broad, open areas, and the football oval and the green space around them back there in Aramac, wherever we get that competitive advantage out of that, it's going to be good.
Instead of being forced up doing one, you might have 1 and 3 welders.
Recoverable works, hopefully.
Yeah.
All right, any further questions for the finance report? You would know, I think that's part of this. It is.
That's what she's asked for.
Just a slight error. 6261 is not written off and 6262, so these are my cars obviously. That's the wrong numbers, so Bob just might need to amend that. 6262 has been written off, and if there is a trade this year, it'll be 6261. I'll still drive it. Well, if it's written off, someone better tell me to stop driving it.
They're close together. He's flipped a bit. It was accidentally written off.
Fine, accidentally.
There was an accident involved in being written off, but I think it was actually written off. Right, so that's some detail which will guide White Plan moving forward.
Just want to have the kilometres updated, because that was not accurate last time, and the age of the vehicles. We're trying to get some more information there too about kilometres per year they travel, and a bit more data to do analysis with.
Right, we can move on to community care services. Can I have somebody please move that we receive that report? Move to Councillor Plum, second to Councillor Gleeson, who's in favour. 7-0. Dan?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The Community Care Services report is looking at it from a financial perspective. Probably the CHSP program is looking very positive with results. There is still some grant funding that needs to be expended. We are progressing through that though. Home care packages still has some more grants to come in, but we have been making steady progress with that as well. I do report in here that our QCSS and community transport programs are being renewed. In the last couple of weeks we've been going to not renew them and then renew on both, and I think we've settled on the QCSS is the program that will be renewed. The community transport at this stage will not. That's purely based on the demands for the service within the community. So we've had that community transport program for a number of for a couple of years now, and I think in this year we haven't had any take up from that from the community. The QCSS we didn't have anyone taking up that service either, but in the last couple of months we have had a client in Muttaburra that has started using that service. So given that we have a current client in that space, we have committed to continuing that program. So that we're finalising the details and the amount of funding supporting that currently with the Department of Communities, and we will have that ready to go from 1 July. So that is being progressed this week a bit further. The home care packages is also, I think I mentioned that already, is now progressing quite well. The council's Home Assist Secure will see a surplus grant funding carry forward, and the current year funding will not be released while it remains unspent. And NDOS is showing well above our budget expectations in that space as well. So very similar words and comments from last month for community care.
Is there anyone who wants to ask any questions about the community? We'll move on to item number 3.7.1, the Alpha Jericho District Report. Karen?
Did you want to vote on that last one?
It's voted.
Oh, it's been voted, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's done.
I missed it. Okay, so we've had some requests for support. So the first one is the Dust Devils that are competing in the Great Endeavour Rally. So they've asked for $1,000, and all funds raised through this goes to the Endeavour Foundation. None of the money goes to fund fuel or their registrations or anything like that. So 100% of the funds go to the Endeavour Foundation to provide opportunities for the intellectually disabled. The rally starts and finishes in Cairns via Cape York, so there is no direct benefit to Barcaldine Regional Council. However, the Dust Devils will place a sticker on their car. They will give us recognition through their Facebook page. So because it's not a direct benefit to council, it's going to require council approval. I think it's very worthwhile cause, the Endeavour Foundation. They do some really good work, but ultimately up to council if they wish to approve the $1,000 donation.
Like you said, we'll bring that back to next month's meeting.
Sorry.
You got it?
Next one.
Yep. So we just keep moving on. Okay. The next one is requesting an in-kind assistance of $1,623 for the purchase of nameplates. This was originally requested back in August 2021. This is for additional grave sites that have been identified on stations, and they'll go down to the old cemetery where the gazebo was put in with the sandstone block. There's been no further request for assistance outside of this. They maintain that themselves. Kath Timms and her son will put the plaques on, so there's no additional cost apart from the purchase of the plaques. Again, because it's of the cost, that will require council approval. And there was also a cash donation request of $500 for the Alpha Horse and Pony Club for their upcoming Gymkhana event. And they scored 85 on that assessment, so that one went through. The Alpha Men's Shed awning has now been fully completed. They're extremely happy, except for one oversight. Their forklift. So you can't raise it because it hits the roof. However, they will live with it. They can raise it a little bit when they just go on the old bit of concrete, but I guess that thought wasn't put in place when it was measured up for the roof to go on. So
I actually think they didn't own it when we
the forklift.
Scoped, yeah. So it's and they do use it for unloading their cans.
Well, that's around the back on the other side, but it's to get stuff in and out of the shed. But they said they will live with it because they're very happy with the awning.
I actually could have an old pallet jack at home on a set of steel wheels that I might be able to drop in there for them to use for manoeuvring stuff around the shed. I'll go.
They would really
Someone
like
scavenged my dump and it wasn't the deputy mayor not long ago, but I think it's still there, so I'll see if I can.
They would be very happy with that if it saves their backs. So no, they're really happy. The Jericho men's shed, it's now fully complete. We are just waiting for final DA approval on that. They are hoping to move in before the upcoming Barrels for a Cause, which is not this coming weekend. It is this coming weekend. No, it's not. It's next weekend, sorry. So we keep following up on that, but it could take another few weeks for that to come through. The Alpha Gates, Dan's going to talk on that. Do you want to do that now, Dan? No, you'll do it later? Okay. So I'll let Dan do that. The Women's Pottery Hut, their water tank has arrived and is now currently being hooked up by our carpenter. And potentially we may have to get the plumber out there, but we'll see how Luke goes. So he's very popular around town with these little jobs getting done now. With regards to housing in Alpha Jericho, we've got one vacant house which is awaiting refurbishment. So the carpenter and I went and had a look at that last week. So we are just waiting to scope those prices up. And Jericho, we have one house and 2 units vacant that need minor refurbishment. Again, with the Alpha Men's Shed, they completed assembling picnic tables for us that were donated through a donation that the police, local police got. So they donated them to us, so we made a deal with the Alpha Men's Shed to put those together, which they gladly did, and Luke is now in the process of putting those around the Alpha Township, with the first one going in at the Alpha Tourism building. So where the old chair and table were, we've put the one with the roof on there and moved the other one over to behind the building, and reports from tenure is that the tourists are loving them and utilising them, especially as our crowds increase with the tourists coming through the towns. And I've included some photos there because the area is looking really good now with the gardens and where it was trimmed and being able to see the mural and everything. So that area is looking fabulous. And that's us for Alpha and Jericho.
Karen, a couple other things to add to your report. One is that the Alpha Tourism Association, I'm assuming, has been quite proactive with the procurement of the signs, a bit of history.
Yes, sorry, I had this report done before they started going up. So yes.
Is council assisting with the installation, or are they doing that?
Yes, they are. Luke's put all of them up bar one, I think. We do have to move one because where we're putting the Alpha Gates now, that sign got put up, so a little bit of lack of communication there, but we are just going to move it to the other side of the Bulls, the garden there, and that'll be fine. And I've spoken with the tourism on that, and they're happy to have it moved to the other side. Lavinia went down and had a look, and she's more than happy. But yes, all those signs are...
They're right around town, there's a bit of a trail of them, you know, like they are a good little thing, and they obviously... I think we fund that. I don't think we did. We just got.
I think Alpha Tourism did, but we're putting them up for them. Yes. So that'll go in the Galilee Gazette as well.
And the other thing for the benefit of councillors who may have worked closely with either Sergeant Ryan Smith or Constable Diana, Senior Constable Di, both of those officers, one who was relieving and the other one has been a long-term officer in charge. moving on from both from the Alpha area. Sergeant Brian Smith has been absolutely the rock of that community through some really trying times from disaster management or from a road safety perspective. I'll go on record as saying that Sergeant Smith's one of the best police officers to ever put on the uniform in Queensland. That's with no slur to the others that do it. He's just as good as you'll get. And he's moving to Morven in a few weeks. So the community's planning to certainly send them off, but I will be writing to those officers on behalf of council and thank them for the work they've done inside the Buckle and Regional Council area, because Sergeant Smith's also been based and or stationed in other stations around up in Arrowhead quite some time ago, but he has been here. So Morven's gain is our loss, but that's expected with public servants. You never hold them forever, and we've been so grateful to have, or so blessed to have Brian, like we do with so many of our good OICs, but he will certainly be missed within the community of Alpha and Jericho and more broadly within the council area. And whilst I'm mentioning that, Inspector Julia Cook's last day as Inspector of the Long Patrol Group was last Friday. She is transferring to the equivalent rank at Moreton Patrol Group, based at Vulture. Chris Smith will be acting as Inspector in the interim period, and I will be interfacing with the Assistant Commissioner to make sure that both of those roles are filled pronto. As we go into the back end of the year, we need experienced disaster management professionals in charge of both the Inspector and Alpha OIC's position from a disaster management point of view is probably our most critical in terms of the largest flood risk for one of our communities. But three coppers that have had a very substantially positive, long-lasting impact on the region between Julia and Guy and Brian, and this council has been much the better for their involvement. So I'll pass on our thanks and gratitude and best wishes to all three of them in writing on your behalf and send a small gift from council their way. Questions for Karen before we move to her reports for requests for assistance?
I just need a mover and seconder, please, Chair.
Somebody moved that we received that report. Councillors Plum and Councillor Gleeson seconded. Those in favour? 7-0. Questions? And the other comment to make is well done for just, those little things like a community group putting them tables and chairs together. That's relationship building 101, but it's really good that we're doing that, and that sense of ownership that the community will have over those donated, admittedly, through the 10 Towns concept, but they'll be viewed with a sense of pride because the men's shed have been instrumental in physically putting them together. That's a terrific gesture and will be well received by them and the community at large. Well done.
Well, just the Alpha community looked really good just from the weekend, so the staff did a great job of presentation in town.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of positive feedback about how well presented it was.
372. So Karen's given some background to this. Those of you who may not be aware, there's a couple of very proactive community members who were instrumental in securing fencing for, and then the very similar concept of this, the plaques for the Pine Hill Cemetery, which have allowed for the recognition of a number of unmarked graves in that area, predominantly in the Pine Hill Cemetery, but also on real properties there. They're now marked on a stone marker underneath the gazebo at Pine Hill. They then undertook a similar project at the old Alpha Cemetery, which a lot of you may not know where it is, but it's just on the road up to the new Alpha Cemetery. Zoom here. That's the gazebo that Karen was referring to. Cemetery there, and halfway up is a front fence, an area that they're starting to maintain with a small garden, and then inside is a big stone plinth with all of the people who've been buried in that old cemetery, once again predominantly in unmarked graves, and then they did a project for a number of burials that have been undertaken on real properties around the area. What's being requested here, or was requested quite some time ago, sorry, did you know where that was? There. is basically a completion of the known grades that they're aware of. So they've done some, but not all. They've worked with this of their own volition. To be honest, there was no request to do it by anybody. There was just a they've just done it, and they go out to both Pine Hill and the old cemetery and maintain those areas, water the gardens, plant flowers that they buy themselves. They do a very good job. So anyway, I'm in your hands, councillors. What do you want to do? Councillor Plum.
I'll move it.
You'll move that we do it. Second. Councillor Peoples. Any debate? Those in favour? 7-0. Three, 7-3. I've spoken to this question, so I think before we go to resolution here, there may be some questions or just general debate, conversation. Who wants to start?
Well, until I hear some arguments possibly for Mr Mayor, I'm against this at this stage. I don't see any benefit to, as it says, in our area, and I can see that giving that $1,000 to someone that is in our area probably, I'd be more inclined to do that at this stage, but I'll listen to any other arguments or discussion that could sway me.
Thank you, Councillor Peebles. Councillor Rogers. Any thoughts?
Question 1. Has council sponsored or donated to outside the great endeavours outside? It's not a community. Do we donate to other organisations similar? Ever? Can't remember.
No, it'd be like, I mean, in my mind, it'd be a bit like sponsoring the Cancer Council, wouldn't it? Like, they're the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
They're a charitable organisation. But it dares to be a little bit this way. I agree, perhaps, with the premise of where you're leading and with where Councillor Peoples is. If they were running an event within our council area, like, I know these people really well, like that's Sandy and they do a terrific job within the community, you know, both on a volunteer basis and catering for events that wouldn't get caterers otherwise. I think if they had, I'm not sure whether they sought advice or not, I would have advised them if they were running a small event in the region before they went away, like a Saturday morning sausage sizzle or something to raise funds for the trip, you might have said, oh, I personally as an individual councillor may be more inclined to say, yeah, I'll throw you some money to help if you've met the criteria and all of that. We're basically just putting the money into the hamper that they then take and hand over at the end of the thing. It's just a bit out of the ordinary to perhaps be polite about it. I hate not saying yes to somebody who's doing such a terrific job to raise or to be philanthropic with their time, but I just don't know that it's necessarily the appropriate use of council resources, but that's just my personal thoughts. Have you anything you want to add? We'll ask the question.
Just, yeah, similar. There are a lot of people chasing sponsorship for a lot of different not like Cancer Council, like you said, for everything, and if we approve it, like, is that just giving everyone the okay
You can't say no, we don't.
to sponsor? Yeah, I know myself and Daryl have done fundraising bike ride a few times, but yeah, it's the same thing. We probably would then assume if one person gets it, that everyone. It's just, there are a lot of people fundraising. But it isn't there, it's word of course.
Councillor Arthur.
I would counter that the community probably has benefited from the rally, because like the fundraising has been like the Alpha Radio I thought there was a couple there.
Just the other day, or yesterday.
They've done catering events, raffles and markets. So in a small way that, like our community probably does, I'd be happy to give them at least $500.
Councillor Hanson.
Yeah, I was, this to me, I sort of like the idea of the Endeavour Rally because money does go to the right people. It may not be directly in our region, but it does go to the right people.
Councillor Plum.
Dear. I don't know. Please, I'm still thinking, Mr. Mayor.
I'll come back to you, but I've only got one councillor, so warning you don't have long because he doesn't take long to make up his mind. Councillor Gleeson.
I'm voting against it, Mr. Mayor, but I'll ask you a question, please. The likings of, in another 2 weeks' time, this organisation is catering at Jericho. There won't be enough power there, so the council will more than likely have to take a generator there. Will they not? For the catering purposes. So what I am saying is...
Well, we may have to, but knowing that organisation, they'll probably just take their own in. But yes, we could, if asked, yes.
So we could be, and I'm pretty sure that we do help in all numbers of ways, this organisation.
I'd like to give them something in common to help them out. As in, if they need some sort of a generator or if they need, like, is that looking at it on a different angle?
Sorry?
That looking at it on a different angle?
We're going to need to make a decision here, councillors. Are we in favour of giving them some money at all, whether it's a different figure, or would we sooner give them support to run any events that they're organising in the region, but not cash? It's that simple. So, Councillor Beatles, you said in his way.
I'm okay with the suggestion by Councillor Gleeson if they've got something coming up and they need a generator or something. If we in-kind support there, I'm happy with that.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm over here with Councillor Peoples and Councillor Gleeson that if there's events that they're holding in the region and they need in-kind support from us, we're happy to help them.
That was where you were alluding to as well, Councillor?
Well, I said that in-kind support.
Yeah.
But are we providing in-kind support to the Great Endeavour Rally or Dirt Dust 666?
Well, or the event that they're catering for, really. It's either one of them two. It's probably Dirt 666 or the Barrels for a Cause. One of those two would be the ones that can benefit. But it'll be them because the catering is the one using the power and they're raising their money for the endeavour. So you could build an argument either way, really.
No, I just want to
Yeah.
make sure of the wording of the
Dust-
resolution.
Dust
So that,
Devils.
because we're not giving it direct to the Great Endeavour.
Dust Devils.
Well, unless you word it similar to what's there, in-kind support to the Great Endeavour Rally team, whatever, because then that shows that they're a rally team in the Great Endeavour,
Yeah.
but it is the team that's being provided the support. So, team number, what are they? Dust Devils.
Doubles,
Dust
666.
666.
666 Dust Devils.
You want specific fundraising events within the group?
Oh. Yep. For fundraising events within the region. Oh, that's already in the policy. If it's higher than that, you've got to bring it back to us anyway. Councillor Hanson.
Yeah, I'll move on that, Mr. Mayor.
Mover. Gleeson. Seconder. Those
Mr. Mayor, do we put a value on this or not?
Well, there's a maximum value in our policy now without, that doesn't require coming back to us, and that is $1,000. And then after that, it requires $500.
It's 500 cash and 1,000 in coin.
Yeah, 1,000. So they've got up to 1,000 in kind, which is quite a substantial amount in kind, and then after that it can come back to us if they want more.
Yeah, that's.
And they may want more than just one generator too. They might need a little tractor for rubbish or whatever. Second up was Councillor Plum. Those in favour? Against?
I'm for.
Yeah, I thought you were. 7-0. You were moving your hand just.
It was one of the few games that I was happy with in its original format. But we'll take a listen.
Ironic as that is, yes, you did. Right.
Oh, I'm out.
Before the going back to the information, the Jericho District report, the Alpha Awesome Pony Club requested a $500 donation. That has been done. You know what I mean? That hasn't got to come to a meeting. That's only a report, isn't it?
That's within policy.
Yeah, that's what I think it's just approved in the house.
All right, tours and goats. Who's leading this, Karen or Dan? Dan.
Okay, thanks Councillor, thanks Mr Mayor. The project, the meeting report we've got in front of you is, we do say the approval of the final design. So we are looking for the endorsement of the design to be endorsed so that the fabrication of the gates can begin. So this project's been on our books for a couple of years now, and the initial budget as part of that set under the W4Q program was for $70,000. The cost we have expected to be is slightly higher now at $77,000. Our plan is there has been a couple of other W4Q projects that have come in under budget, well under budget, that we believe will be able to move some funds around to see that fully funded as well. So the design, we have gone through a company called Daytonia Designs. They have a track record of doing these types of signage up and down across the state, in Queensland and across the country. The design that we have come up with in consultation with them has been worked through with the Alpha Tourism Group.
Can I just interrupt please, Mr Mayor? What we're looking at here, Dan, is it $77,000 for the design and the gates, or is it just the design?
It's for the gates to be constructed and installed.
Whole project.
The whole project.
I'll move it if you like, Mr Mayor. It's an extra $7,000. That's what we're looking for?
I'll second it.
Oh, I was about to say, it looks like Councillor Peoples looking for an early knock, but now I think Councillor Rogers is too, so standing orders would proceed that I have a valid motion from the floor.
Are you sure they want a question?
I'm due to be able to put it to the vote. Those in favour? Against?
Mr Mayor, we've been hearing about these gates for a long time.
We are. The horse is well and truly bubbling, but the one that's about to be born might get the gate shut in their face.
So the design's good.
Look, in fairness, I'll retract my call in the vote. Councillor Gleeson may have had a question. Everyone else looks ready to vote, but he's still perusing data. You rushed me on the question. I'm fully aware of the fact that you would think I'm rushing on your question.
I agree. And as Councillor People asked, that is for the entirety of the project.
Yeah, so for the reason it's come to council is we have been discussing it for a while, and there was a request from, to be honest, I can't remember which councillor requested it, but did ask for this to be brought to council prior to the construction. So that's the reason it's here. It's more about endorsement of the direction that we've taken.
It has been outstanding for a while, so it's nice to get another job complete.
Yes. Well, it's not completed yet, Mr CEO.
It's nearly halfway.
It's a lot closer than it was.
Oh my God.
All right. I will now call the vote. Those in favour? Motion carried 6-0. Councillor can rejoin.
Yeah, they both got a train.
No.
This one doesn't.
Oh, one's the back, one's the front.
Oh. The trains are rocky.
think we can now throw to Paula. If someone may please move that her report be received. 381. Councillor Plum, seconded Councillor Hanson. Those in favour? 7-0. Thank you, Paula.
So at the moment we've got quite a number of people travelling through the communities. So we've got bike riders, horse riders, and we're expecting a fairly large car rally in August. The horse riders are well on their way. They're about 40 k's or nearly 50 k's out of Aramac today. I just want to recognise the librarian, Aramac librarian. She did 20 years of service, which is to be commended. Not many people do that many years anymore in one organisation. Our Rural Lands Officer's been extremely busy. He's completed the Cattle Yards project, which looks fantastic. And the drover's back in our region again and is heading towards the Winton boundary. And yeah, I'll take the rest of it as read.
Questions for Paula, please?
Well, I see you drove it just Aramac side of Rodney too.
Yes, that's the one that's moving through.
Okay.
Through Mr. Mayor, the Centrelink bus it visited Aramac and Marlborough, but it also was in Barkey and Alpha. But does anyone know if there was a reason why it didn't stop in Jericho? Like, there was some questions about that.
I know that it had done Alpha, but...
Was that the government? Yeah, I did ring them and ask them for Jericho to be put on the list. Why was it missed?
I just wondered whether there was any reason why they didn't, like,
they did. They didn't give me a reason. They just said it was too late to add them this time around.
Yeah,
so
they may do it the next
I have asked that Jericho be included.
There was interest in them.
Yeah, definitely. And for the demographic of people that are there, yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I did make contact before they came out.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the Mad Cow charity. Who do they work for, Paul?
Yeah, they're just bike riders that ride for homelessness.
But just for homelessness, okay, yeah. What are that about?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the complaints received from tourists about the amenities block, is that to do with the sewerage or is that separate or in the town supervisor's little section?
I was probably supposed to say compliments, not complaints.
Or have I read it wrong? No, just compliments, sorry. Received many compliments. That's my bad. I've got to get glasses.
Oh, you've got to get the Specsavers, Dan.
You're going to be looking for an early knock. Councillor, you're going to be looking for an early knock off too shortly. I'll struggle to maintain a quorum here in a minute.
Contractor engaged to repair sewer main at Caravan Park, and then I read it as complaints, so I put the two and two together and got. My apologies. I will now say nothing for the remainder of the meeting.
There have been numerous compliments about our new building up there that everyone's very impressed with.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we did receive an email the other day from some tourists that stayed in Aramac for 4 days, and they sent through a breakdown of what they'd spent in the community. So it was $600 that they'd spent in the 4 days, and they listed fuel and pub and the shop, and they went over to Marlborough. So I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, further questions? Time to put Jenny front and centre. Can somebody please move that we receive the District Manager Buckle's report? Councillor Peoples, seconded Councillor Rogers. Those in favour? 7-0. Jenny.
I have got a separate report in there for the request for assistance. The swimming pool upgrade, the leak detection work has been carried out. We're just waiting for that report to come. They have found some leaks there, so we'll just get that comprehensive report before we progress to the next stage in the works to be carried out there. Quotes have been received. The tenders were called for the replacement of the media, which is the sand in the filter tanks. that's been awarded. They'll just negotiate with the project manager from GBA regarding the commencement of that, because they've just got to do some work in one of the tanks once the media is removed. The construction of the amenities is in progress. They haven't put the roof on yet because they're doing the work inside, and without electricity it is too dark. The carpenter did say that he's never seen so many nuts and bolts to put things together. It's like a Meccano set, but it's quite sturdy and it's looking quite good. The master plans, as that's been approved in the budget, I will do the acceptance and get that commenced as soon as possible. The tenderer had sort of made a suggestion that they probably could come and sit at Westec, which would gather ideas from the community as a group of people, because they like to discuss with the community. Yes, tourism has started to pick up a little bit. The information centre has been busy the last few days with people heading through for the Big Red Bash. The library continues to still offer a great service. There was a spreadsheet of some, sorry. How about I put the library stuff in the visitor? The visitor numbers were attached. The library will give a quarterly report. RLO, his schedule of works he's been doing there. He attended some training in Longreach as well, and we had a meeting with senior management and all the DMs and the RLOs together, which was quite an informative meeting. And he's been assisting with some being in the Aramac area. Everything else. Again, we've also received some compliments about our showground. We did receive another one following the show. Someone went in after the show and they complimented on how clean it was after the show and that what a great facility. The rec park's probably not getting as much use now since it's been cooler, but it has warmed up again. So yeah. That's me.
I found those interesting, the numbers of visitors in May year on year on. That is not what I felt on the roads, that there was more visitors this year than last year. But pleased that I'm wrong, very pleased, it's a good way to be wrong, it just didn't feel, and even looking at our caravan park here, not in Aramac and Motorbar admittedly, they were quite busy, but here it was just a bit quiet.
I think those figures are based on when I've done some work there many years ago. You count everyone that comes into the information centre. So that could include locals. Say if it was a family of 6, they might have counted the 6 people. So it's not necessarily based on the number of caravans.
No, and even if there's a little bit of a discrepancy there and they're still roughly, even if it's just roughly similar, I just anecdotally would have thought that 22 was busier than 23 was in May. But anyway, it seems that there's still a bit there, so that's pleasing. Questions for Jenny?
Mr. Mayor, can I just ask, obviously we're running into the last 12 months of the 60 and Better program. Jenny, is there anything in the foresight as to what this group move on to, or does it just dissolve?
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, no, it's still in discussion because it's looking to be incorporated in, because there's quite a few groups that service that same dynamic of persons. The information is that they're looking to just group together. So there could be still something there, just depending on what, they're not sure yet. Yeah.
Councillor, just because the funding runs out, that program is still actually, the on-ground project is still ours, not the state's. It's just that we receive funding to run it. So council can continue it on. The clients need no different at all. It's just that we would be wearing the $65,000 a year or whatever it is. So we're under no obligation simply because the state decides to pull the funding out of supporting pensioners in regional Australia. We're under no obligation to continue that same track. We can still do it and just wear it or find another program auspices to consider running it through. But yeah. I sound a little bit cranky then, and I am a bit cranky because even though there's not many of us across the state that use the state funding for that, I just don't think we should be sidelined on the basis that there's not many of us. It's a little bit like the mental health funding, just because there's only 15 local governments or 20 local governments that want the 75,000, why us for that? The state agrees with me totally on the mental health funding, so I'm hopeful that we can find some other program at a state or a federal level to provide us some support to continue to provide pension support, or it's not even pension, it's just elderly person support within our communities. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach in every community. Some have got men's shed, others have got pottery groups, some have got arts and craft groups, some have got social bingo. Here we've got a fair bit of all of that, but also 60 and better. I just, wouldn't want anybody to think that our intent is for it to cease. It's just we're going to have to be creative in how we find some funding to help us offset that, or wear a $65,000 hole.
I just thought that it just become defunct,
No.
Didn't have water.
Our building, our staff member, our everything.
Okay, that's fine, that's good.
Questions?
Please, Mayor. Jenny, did you find out if that leak was, or what that leak was that really in front of the school gate, the red light?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that was the lake was very full, so they turned the water back, and it was actually coming under the Gabion wall. Yes. I did go up last week with the assets manager, and we had a look at, it has started to dry back, and it's just basically along, but it's quite full.
There's a few wet spots around that, so we'll just try to work it out.
Okay. No more questions? Councillor Arthur leaves. Jenny. I don't know if you had much to add here, is there? Pretty detailed report.
To you, Mr. Mayor, no, there isn't much to add, just that all the documentation is there from the club, and the council had received advice that this club was successful and came up with as well.
Yes, we certainly have. Right. Questions, thoughts, comments, observations, or resolutions?
Mr. Mayor,
Councillor.
is successful in receiving a grant. So they have written to ask for the grant, and they have received a grant, but in my way of thinking, haven't done their homework to work out where they're going to find the 10,000, the 10% from before they have received the grant. Shouldn't get on past experience with a different organisation, we approached the council and asked if we receive the grant, will the council assist us in some financial manner? I believe that this club has gone back to front, haven't they, or not? Am I wrong?
I guess that's a question for your fellow councillors, but I just would have thought perhaps common courtesy, if you're applying for $250,000 and you needed 10,000 off somebody, would have been to at least pick up the phone and say we're doing this, but up to where you go as an individual with whether they'd gone about it the right way or not, where we are. Councillor Plum.
Mr. Mayor, can I just say that the facility or the ablution block they've applied for here is going to be totally built, and all the works that is done out there by our local builders and carpenters. So I just feel that we're really helping our club here to expand. I just feel that that they're going to utilise a lot of our businesses in the town to do this, and that's just one area we should consider.
Councillor Lindsay.
Just for clarification, clarification for you is the council actually owns the land that Planetarium Club's on, is that right? Or you lease it back to them?
Yes, it's just been turned
Jenny.
freehold.
Yes, that's that one.
So
That
potentially going to be switched for a truck stop.
And my way of thinking, if the building was built there, council in a way actually owns it.
Not in a way, we actually do own it, yes. It's our land, it's our freehold, yes. They lease it for how long?
Geez, yeah, I don't have any lease. The council hasn't done a lease on it.
No, right.
We don't have a lease on it.
No.
We haven't leased it to them, we just own it.
Yes, Tina said yes, because council bought that state land for the purpose of selling. And there, yeah, further discussions seem to be going to have now, or was to change, yeah.
It's a land up on the asset register.
So, the same as the new bar at the showgrounds will end up on our asset register.
For the full value, not just for whatever the.
Yeah, that's right. So there's no agreement with them to occupy that land at all? How were they even able to apply for the grant? Did we write a support letter? No, there'd only be one of you two that would have written it, because the grant closed in February and we had to rush the...
We own the land and the council, of course, given that use.
Sorry.
How long since they've had the land?
Well, they've used the land for decades, but the last council made a decision to acquire the land and then execute a land swap agreement with state land. And then we, council, acquired it, freeholded it, ready to swap for this futuristic truck stop that I talked about this morning. And that never happened. And so they're just squatting there, basically.
Through Mr. Mayor, my question just raised other questions.
Well, I just don't know how did they qualify for the grant without the landowner's permission for it to be put there? Anyway, they have qualified, obviously, because they've got it. So we've got to deal with this.
There would have to been some probably questions about that in the application, but yes.
Would have thought.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do?
Through Mr. Mayor, I agree with Councillor Plum. It's benefit to the community in the way that local contractors will be used to finish the job, and it's not going to have budgeting implications. Also, even if we were to set a precedent for it, it's not something, if our clubs started to receive funding like that more regularly, it'd only be, I don't think that we're going to be overrun by requests for that money. It's not that often that you get that kind of funding.
Okay. Very right, councillors.
Yeah, I'd like to move that we do this.
Thank you.
I'd like to move that we go ahead.
I think I want to check. Oh, yes, sorry, I'm right, resolution's right. You want to move it? Right, move to Councillor Plum. Do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Rogers. Debate. Those who wish to speak against. Debate.
Not against.
Have we got $10,000 in the budget
Yes.
allocated for this?
Yeah. There was as per the report in the agenda, $181,000 budgeted for community donations. This request will not have budget impact as there are still funds available for distribution.
It is on council land, it will be a council asset. Council will claim depreciation on the asset.
So through the chair, just in response to that, depending on the outcome of how the lease works, if part of the lease conditions is that they maintain, take responsibility for that asset, we then can move that asset off our books. But while there's no lease in place,
We need to write one.
addressing that fact, it will end up on our books.
I would suggest we need to have one as an absolute matter of priority, considering what type of sporting organisation it is. It's fire up to, like,
Oh, I'll leave the questions. Oh, then there's somewhere there, what else about formals agreements on that then?
do you have anything further to contribute?
No, I find it difficult, I agree with you, Mr Mayor, I find it difficult to see how the grant was approved without, without a full letter from the council.
I'd love to see the application. Councillor Hanson.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'm probably a little bit like I'm for it. And other reasons is major events here, it probably gives us another venue where you maybe have a whole like a tent city or something like that, major events. For that reason, it just gives us another venue or maybe on a sort of accommodation type things, if need be.
Mayor, I don't think I am for it. I am for it, I'd like to see infrastructure coming into our community, I just don't like the way it's been done. And just something to the CEO saying, you know, could you take this to council if we were successful with council, support us. Good spending or something along those lines, not after the grant's been allocated. I've just got a bit of an issue with that.
We'll go to the mover, Councillor Plum.
Yeah, you know, like, as I said to you, they're engaging in local businesses in your work. As Councillor Hanson said, it's another venue that they could use, and I'm sure that they'd be agreeable to use it for other people that wanted to have even a rally staying in there. It's another amenities block for them. I just think it's going to be something that they'll move forward and make their facility a better facility.
Councillor Rogers, anything to add before we go to the vote?
I do agree that it's, the way it's been done is not the best thing to do, but I think could we write a letter with if this is approved, just to say, you know, in the future, please request this assistance before you make your applications, because that's very the best way of doing it. But apart from that, I'm happy to.
Those in favour of providing the $10,000, please raise your hand. Those against? Motion is carried 5-1. Councillor Pickers dissenting.
Mr. Nixon, should we also move forward on making sure that the lease area is tidied up as well?
We'll need to be an agenda item for another day, we need more information.
Yeah.
We've got to do some research on this.
Okay. 310.1. Four 16s, is it?
Yep.
Right there, Manuel Williams.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The I think it's my final report for today, the project progress report. So this was a report we didn't supply in May, but we have got it done this month with updated progress on all our projects. A number of those projects have been discussed already, so I'll just point out a few things that have, I suppose, progressed or been updated. You can start to see a number of the projects are now being marked as completed or on track. And we've also updated the expected completions of a number of those projects that are still open. So some of those we are looking to have them completed this financial year. Others, given the relaxation in particularly the LRCIP funding for another 12 months, we have some of those, rather than trying to rush to get those finished, we'll just complete them as a matter of course going forward. A lot of the projects on that first page in the capital in the community space will be completed by the end of this financial year, which is much better showing than what it was the last time we presented this report. In the water and sewage space, we do have a few capital projects that will continue to progress forward and be carried forward. We probably have some more work we're putting together for what we need to do to finish off the sewage treatment plant here in Barcaldine, the upgrade there. So there's, in the next couple of meetings, we will bring that in a bit more detail to council of what needs to happen there. Now that we have a bit better understanding of the work that needs to be done to complete that. Also, there's a list of the planned items which has been updated to reflect what we have spent. So there has been a few planned items have been received. There's a few more that we have on order currently, and there's a few that are working through to be carried forward as well, which is somewhat tied to the length of the lead times on those pieces of fleet, but also ensuring that we are acquiring the fleet that meets the needs of the services we're providing and the methods we're using to provide that service. In the capital works space for roads and transport, a number of those projects are progressing forward. I think of note, we mentioned earlier the Nabathon Road has updated a lot since then. There has been invoices coming in June, so it's sitting at 90% progress now, with just the final seal left to go. In the Gulf 4 space, we have talked about the town signs today, the entry gates over in Alpha, and we've also have progressed through on a few projects and updated some information in Gulf 5 as well. So, proceeding, Noni, thank you.
Questions for Dean? When's the Barcaldine renewable energy contribution come to effect?
Well, wait until next financial year now. Yeah. That will carry over. You estimated that was always carried forward. So. Further? Okay. Can I have somebody please move that it be received? Councillor Rogers, second Councillor Plum, those in favour? 7-0. Can I have somebody please move the Community Engagement Coordinator's information report to be received? Agenda item 3.11.1. Councillor Gleeson, seconded Councillor Plum, those in favour? 7-0.
Councillors, probably take it as read. We can highlight the comms and engagement coordinator's been out actively engaging with our community. You'll see there's quite a bit of information about what we've been doing and where we've been attending. It'll be easy to take questions. I just want to highlight anything specific.
Sorry, the one thing I did see, I like the idea of the high vis colourful happy shirts, whether they're the trademark or anyone does, doesn't matter who it is, but for the dedicated first aiders, I think it's the qualified, makes them very identifiable, but it's also something a bit different for the staff to wear. I think that's a good concept. I think that'll take off. The only problem you're going to have is I reckon that the non-first aiders are going to want to wear it too, so then it's quickly going to have to change track and change colours, I reckon, but yeah, it's good. Well,
it's a good idea. One thing I could add, Instagram comment, we're getting a lot of entries now, which is really good, so it's gaining some momentum. Facebook, you'll see in our websites, there's more traffic, more up-to-date information, so I think we're doing a good job in that space. We're currently looking at our web page design or website design to bring that into the more phase as well.
yes, Councillor Plum.
With regards to the Get Gardening Expo, it says there that it's at Westec this year. I've spoken about this previously, and I don't think it does it justice taking it to Westec. The last two Westecs that we've had it at, we've only had a very small handful of people attend the announcement of the awards. I would like to see it as a standalone, just like they have at Muttaburra and Aramac Alpha. And I think it would create more of an atmosphere and more people to be involved with it. I think at Westec, there's so much else not going on, and people are looking at so much else and want to be there, do that, then they're not. I just don't think it's the right facility or right area to be, for it to be there.
Councillor.
I tend to agree with Councillor Plum on that. It's hard to even know that there's been a garden expo in August, whereas it's really well received in all the other towns. Yeah, and remembered.
So how do you mean, through you, Mr Mayor, how do you mean it's well received? Because I've handed out the awards to some of the winners, and it's just been me and them in their yard.
No, I think, are you talking about the expo or just the competition?
No, I'm talking about the expo.
The expo itself, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the garden competition.
No,
Right.
I'm talking about the expo. That's what they're talking about.
So is it the same time as Westec here?
Well, they have it at Westec, the expo, and it's just, I think Westec just takes over it, and yeah, unfortunately, I think the gardeners would probably appreciate something of their own, like they had, as I said. Muttaburra was really well done last year.
Councillors, would you like the officers to bring to the next meeting an alternative to Westec for the Gardening Expo?
Yep.
Yes. We can't resolve that because we don't have a resolution, but officers, please.
Excuse me.
Yes, Councillor.
Through Mr Mayor. Councillor Plum, last Westec there was gardening presentations over here as well, wasn't there?
Competition, yes, there was. Yes,
There was, because there was only 4 or 5 people there. Yeah. But you're not talking about the presentations of the gardening, you're talking about the gardening expo itself.
and to collate those presentations with that as well.
Yeah, right, okay, I agree, it didn't work. Because we made it our business to go there, and I think there was only, yeah.
Councillors, can you throw some prospective date, time periods forward?
Well, I think it's September, October. October. Wasn't it in Muttaburra? It was October.
I think it's generally in September, but a lot of the community do want it to be later.
Yeah, they do.
Over November.
Probably October, like not November, but
Oh,
between
no.
those two. Early
Paul?
Yes, Mr Mayor. September would be good, I think. Well, depend, if you have it weather shade, well, that's fine, anytime.
I think probably, if it was getting on to the 24th of September. 21st September, at the end of September.
Shall we get the officers to have a look at what else is on around the region so that we don't clash with much if we can, and bring that report back? And in your, do you want to nominate a town? Oh, you wanted a Bungle?
It was Bungle town's turn. Would you like to have it? It's Buckle's turn. It's Buckle's turn. That's why we're having a second.
Doesn't worry me in the slightest, where or how. If I'm wherever you all feel is the best time, date and location, I'm more than happy to support it being. I just do not profess for 1 minute to have the competency to discuss gardening.
To you, Mr Mayor and Councillors, the expo was held on Saturday the 10th of September in Marlborough.
So, and they wanted a little bit later, didn't they, Councillor Rogers? So.
Well, the problem with the 10th of September is the judging's already happened, like it's August nearly. So if you pushed it till later in September, you could do it once there's been a little bit of spring growth.
Yes.
The school holidays impacted.
That is exactly where I was going. The problem is late September is school holidays. And you've got a long weekend in October and then...
so what's wrong with that, Mr Mayor?
Having a Jewish school holidays?
Yeah.
If you think that's appropriate?
Getting the kids involved with some hands-on.
If the kids are home?
Yeah, if the kids are at home, then they can come along.
I think the majority of kids will be home, not everyone goes home.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm just making sure you're aware of the timing. I don't personally have a clue. Council?
I've got no comments.
Councillor Gleeson? No comment. There's been 5 of us here, I reckon if you say nothing, I'm going to say, out of fear, not going to say anything. Councillor Peebles?
I agree with my 2 immediate councillors here.
Can we just get some options for late September, early October in Buckle? Do you want to do something like Muttaburra where they had it set up in the town hall? In the Memorial Hall, sorry. That's the project.
I think it would look good around the bottom of the globe and around the grassed area. Shade.
That's the lack of shade's the issue there.
Oh, well, they've got all that under the walkway and everything, so it's in the shade.
But you're standing there listening to a presentation is all I was thinking. Like I'm just thinking the presentation.
Upstairs.
That might have to happen because the presentation at Muttaburra used slideshows and videos and so forth, like an outdoor presentation probably wouldn't have worked then.
Go upstairs. Lovely area upstairs, they can all see.
Alright, moving right along. Sounds like we've discussed that one. Further comments?
Oh,
Yes.
sorry. Yeah, just the welcome to country videos or media.
Yep.
Can you just explain exactly what that is again and what it's for?
Yeah, certainly. So the one that comes most readily to mind is that Queensland University of Technology have produced in conjunction with the Tuggerah people who are the custodians, traditional owners of the land in and around the mouth of the Brisbane River, a series of videos that they use with a voiceover as an acknowledgement of country, highlighting the region, the geographical features and culture. And they're only very short, but they're an acknowledgement of country where a custodian or traditional owner can't make a function, or even if they can, they often play this video to give people who might be a visitor to the region an understanding of the raw beauty or the background, and then allows the speaker that does the acknowledgement of country to touch on the event that they're speaking or the audience that they're speaking to. So it's somewhat generic. Then separately to that was the idea of having a video that just about every region has, that plays as a bit of a marketing showpiece, highlighting the industry within a region, the raw beauty of, say, that, in our case it could be the Great Dividing Range, the Western Queensland Plains, the Channel Country, just sort of showing off the natural landscape, and then the people and the places and the economic development base for the region. So you'd use that. Predominantly, I'd be the main one that'd use if I was opening a conference somewhere or speaking at the mayor, whoever it was, sorry, the mayor was speaking at a community, at a state conference on something. That would be the 2 or 3 minute or 5 minute max introductory video that then sets the tone or the scene for the presentation from Barcaldine. So the acknowledgement of country happens for events we host here, obviously. And it's certainly in no way designed to replace, but only to further really complement the traditional owner acknowledgement that we have that's first class. There hasn't, so we're still working up what it'll cost and what those options are. And then we'll go and work with the Central West Aboriginal Corporation to do things like the voiceover and the script and explain to them that we're definitely not trying to marginalise, but enhance what they do. And then the other piece, well, that'll be, we'll get various look at the scripts, and there's a strong possibility we might be able to use the same production company to do both videos while they're out here, but make sure we use totally separate footage, because you don't want to dilute the importance of an acknowledgement of country message by a marketing message and pinching the same photography or videography.
So it's to be used at things like live events. It's not like for something on our website.
No.
It's like a live event video.
That's right. You wouldn't want to, once again, dilute the message by having everyone just Google Barcaldine and have either of those messages come up. They would be locked down, only using the approval of either council or me. So if we were to host, say, the Local Government Association conference again, both of those videos would get a run at some point during it, whenever I stood up to do the welcome to the region, but before, say, Kerry stood up to do the acknowledgement of country, that those videos would be tone setters. That's basically what it is. And it's hard for me to show you because no one puts them online. They keep them so they've got some impact when you go to a live presentation. Did you go to the LGAQ, the welcome function where Mayor Greg Williamson spoke at Mackay, the conference?
Oh, yeah.
So they had one. It was a 3 or 4 minute video that showcased the greater Mackay region, and then he came on and spoke, and that sort of showed people, there's the coastal ranges and the beaches. And
what we're doing, the opportunity to get some footage we don't currently have, which there's a lot of good stories out there we don't promote. This will pick some of that up. Some local characters.
You wouldn't have any, like you might have generic video of somebody sitting on a park bench or something like that. I'm talking out of school a bit. You wouldn't have footage of current councillors speaking or anything on it, because A, it's to transcend, but B, the idea is for them to be speaking in front of this video playing, if that makes sense. So if we had a jobs forum somewhere, that would be another perfect example. If we went to a regional jobs forum and the deputy mayor or a councillor was representing council, that little video could play. And if you had a stand at that, it would potentially be playing on the screen in the background the whole time. Because if you hold someone to your stand for more than 10 minutes, you've done well. So if you've got them there for 2 or 3 minutes of that. All right. Further questions?
Mr. Mayor, it's probably Billy might be the answer, but anyway, but I was just wondering what the suggestions were that the 60s and over, like what they were suggesting with regards to the tourism experiences. Even though it says that nothing fitted the grant guidelines, it's still interesting to know what their suggestions were.
Can we get a copy of that?
Yeah, I can get a copy of that. There was a couple of simple ones that we had when she went 60s that pointed out that signs were pointing in the wrong direction. So we fixed them. We pointed back where they pointed. So sometimes the 60s are better than their eyes on the ground, so they do provide some advice.
And the other question I just had too was just a little bit more an explanation of how the podcast productions would work, or what,
So it's a concept at the moment, so you could listen to 1098, or you could tap in and listen to your council or something in the community while you're driving, so you can drive and listen. We'll talk about our community in 1 second. Yeah, it's a concept at the moment we haven't pushed about too much.
The other thing was the RADF applications that we have received. One of them, it said was received just after the due date, but it actually did come in on the correct, like 22nd of May. It was within the guidelines, the pastel workshop that we'll be voting on. I think it's for
Next one.
yeah, it was just that, yeah, it was the correct email address.
Sorry, didn't it say there that it was received in May?
The furniture
Oh,
personal one was,
right.
But they actually were both.
Oh.
It was in the guidelines.
Any further questions before we move on to that RADF application? No? Right.
Any feedback on that? Council's been looking at our Facebook. Are you happy with how we're going and putting content on there?
Yeah, I thought the Facebook stuff's been good. It must have been on the website. Did our last meeting make it on the website, or was there a problem with the visual of that? Because it wasn't only a couple of weeks ago.
Ask Eric that. Well, I haven't got on the check myself.
Can't wait till it's overhauled.
Yeah, once we get proper meetings like that.
Well, the website generally. Okay. 3.11.2. RADF committee. What was your recommendations here that we approve? Thoughts from the peer review?
Both of these things I think will be really well received and well attended in the community. It's always been really successful, the furniture restoration, and the tutor is really well respected. He always has different more advanced skills to teach those in Team 4. And the pastel workshops, we haven't had a pastel workshop for quite a big years, but I think it's perfect timing because there's been a lot of interest in that in the community, and I think it'll be really well attended.
Councillor Arthur?
Nothing further to add, Mr Mayor.
Nothing. Councillors, do I have a mover? Councillor Plum, second Councillor Hanson. Those in favour? 7-0. Somebody please move that we receive questions on notice response from the May meeting. Item 3.1.1. Councillor Peoples moves. Councillor Rogers seconds. Those in favour? Carried. And we now move to questions on notice. And I'll start with Councillor Plum.
I'm fine, Mr Mayor, I'm second.
I've thoroughly enjoyed, as I always do, your contributions, Councillor Plum. Sometimes I actually didn't even struggle to hear them today, and you other does. Councillor.
No, I'm right, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Hughes. Councillor, please.
Just a question. The botanical garden area on the southern side of Park Calden, is that still, haven't heard much about it in the last 8 or 10 or 12 months, is that still going ahead? You know, the required area?
Look, I don't think it's not required through a variety of reasons, including individuals, businesses and personal lives. I think there may have just been a little bit of a back burner taken, but I certainly think that there's still clear intent from that group to proceed. Just probably hasn't been front of mind for some of the individuals involved heavily in that group. So I'd suggest we probably just, that's been a bit of a down tools issue, but we can take that on notice and reach out to the group and ascertain whether there's anything further that council can do at this stage, or if we're still in a holding pattern. Thank you. Councillor Pevens.
Mr Mayor, Shane, is Monday an RDO?
No. Friday is this Friday.
We just got a Barcall and TAB meeting here on Monday.
That request has been received. And
We've got the request, we'll deal with that as a
It's
start.
under control.
Yep.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, that's it from me.
Councillor Roberts.
I know that we are looking at updating our council website, like, updating the whole website, but yeah, people are starting to ask, are we going to take the old information down? And there's information there that is still there from December of last year, and update the calendar, like.
Events calendar.
Yeah, just, the other thing was that, I noticed just yesterday, actually drove past the cemetery where the free camping is, and even though we've fenced it off to reduce the risk of fire, there is even where in this side of the fence is very high dead grass, or in amongst where they're camping. I'm not sure if there's anything we can do to just slash, something, like just minimise that risk. Maybe the fire is we go out, but it might be a bit hard to put caravans there, but back burner do something.
Is it in the open area, or is it in the orange?
No,
It's in
between
the
the fence and
road
the
corridor
road.
that encompasses the rest area and the toilet block and.
It really is high grass.
Through the chair, councillor, can I just get clarification on what your question is with the website? Is it a?
They're just saying, there's still information up there, events that were in December or news.
Oh, I see what you mean.
So there's
Just update content.
obsolete news still there that hasn't been taken down to replace it with new news. Yeah, not updating the whole website, but just the stuff that's on it.
Keep it covered. Yep.
And there have been people asking about the videos. But I keep just telling them to go to YouTube, because the links used to be put on the council website to the YouTube videos, but now they're not there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Aaron was having trouble, but I'm not sure what his reasons were.
Yeah, because I just had a look at February as the last month. There's none there for March, April, or May.
You're going to search in that.
The link on your website. It could well be on YouTube, but there's no direct link.
Is it actually on YouTube yet, the May one? Because last time I looked, it wasn't there, which was only about a week ago. Still wasn't up.
That's one for Chase Aaron. I haven't the guy on look at it.
Okay, I do have 2 mirror minutes. Well, I don't, but the only way to introduce late items is to be a mirror minute. So I'm asking, and the officers have prepared reports, they'll be on the screen. One of them has been discussed 3 times that I can think of in briefing sessions or on sidelines. That's the, which one's this? Oh, sorry, can I do the other one first, because I think it's more pro forma.
This one we want to discuss a minute ago.
This here, it is just for the fencing materials. I don't think you have a conflict of interest. It's not required, but we're just providing the pro bono. So I can think of you at the start of the day that we're just literally, it's a purchase requirement for steel. Your
Mr. Mayor, I might declare, just because of the undertakings that have happened previously, just
in terms of assistance.
Yeah, with this project in general.
Okay.
Yeah, so if I can declare a conflict because of
You're declaring?
Yeah.
my employer, Michael Horton Transport.
And Councillor Beagles is declaring because of his role as Central Queensland Racing.
Yep.
Central West Racing. A requirement from the club, as we've discussed, has been to secure the areas where horses are stabled, or tied up, sorry, not stabled. There was a grant successfully applied for within Queensland Racing. However, the materials that were selected locally weren't great and wouldn't be in keeping with what was over there. The officers have sourced pricing for what I personally think is adequate. It's a 75mm box post with 2 oval rail rails to secure that area and to construct the gates through where the road and the ramp is. The club is prepared to do the work to put it up. It's once again, we're talking about early assets on ours, it secures that area for us. It won't restrict access for camping, in fact it probably makes it a more definable area for other events, whether it be a camp draft or a rodeo that may need a lot of room. But it certainly helps the club become safety compliant with Queensland racing. I think the fact that the community groups are prepared to either volunteer their time or conversations with the president, I think one of the 2 local fencing contractors is going to get the job to put it up on their behalf, but that will still come at the expense of the club. This material supply went on vendor panel, 3 tenders were received, and this is the one that the officers have selected as the most advantageous to council on the basis of price. So yes, simply there's enough material there to construct a 1.2 metre high, 2 rail, oval rail, secured area. Galvanised steel.
Safety and community.
Councillor Gleeson, this is an area of interest for you. You happy to move it, eh? No. Second, Councillor Plum, any questions about it? Those in favour? Carried 5-0. Councillors may return.
Thanks, Paul.
We'll present it and then if need be, we'll close. I'm going to move to the CEO for the explanation of this, although I have had conversations with the CEO about this, but I'll let him lead you through this, given the timing of this.
Councillor, as you see from the minute there, we currently have a contract in place with George Bolton Associates. It expires 30th of June. What I'm asking is to extend the current conditions for a period of 3 months while DCBS, myself and GBA negotiate new terms, including reporting requirements and our needs going forward. We bring that contract back to a future meeting in that time frame.
Council, it's the legal mechanism by which we would have to extend this contract is under a local buy arrangement because George Bolton Associate are local buy. They're within that 3 months they will exceed $200,000 most definitely in what it would be allowed and authorised. I asked the CEO to bring it to council today. Not only does the negotiations need to occur around this because the recommendation will most likely be to proceed over tender to ensure this is value for money, but we also need to completely ascertain what our internal requirements and capacity will be before we go to market and see what consulting engineering services we need. We, as you would be aware, have been recruiting in this, actively trying to recruit in this space, and at this point in time have still been, well, we still don't have an appointment, so we need to ascertain whether that is going to be a viable option or whether we need to revert to a full external consultancy arrangement, as is currently contracted to be the case, before such time. I'm happy to close the meeting, given that we are dealing with a contractual arrangement and public discussion of which could be disadvantageous to council. If you are of a mind and wish to ask a question or two that you think fits that, I'm in your hands. That's the background as to why this has been put today. It should have been dealt with. The intent was for it to have been dealt with earlier, but due to the recruitment issues, is obviously, and other matters, but that's number one amongst them, is stymied what would happen. So, would anybody like to? It's no slight if anyone wants the meeting closed. I'm happy to do it.
Mr. Mayor, I've just got a couple of questions that I don't think that we need to go into closed session for. One is 3 months enough time?
I asked the same question yesterday.
Yeah, we believe it is, but I'm happy to. I think we should be able to get there within 3 months. Because a lot of the work we're doing is. If the decision is to go to market, we'll have to go to market, which will take a fraction longer.
Yeah, I think.
I'd like to get it sorted sooner rather than later.
And you're going to bring back, you said you're going to bring back to councils what the contract might look like, so that's going to be 1 month.
So if council's happy to go 6, I'm happy to go 6.
That's why the timeframe you were just about to spell out was still unchanged. If the proposal comes back next month, it's called, you open it for a period of time, close it, tender evaluate. The inside you can do it in 3 months, but that doesn't allow for a handover. So then if that was to occur, whatever, then I just think the period of transition, so I'm thinking 6 months, but not making the decision in 6 months. It could be made as soon as 3, and that allows for however the contract arrangement, whether it's in-house, some of it's being managed in-house or whatever, that can all happen over the back end of this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you put just 6 months there, you can, if you need a bit of time, you've got it. Otherwise, if you don't need time, you get it done in 3 months, well and good.
Councillor Gleeson, did you want to?
I feel as though that put the months there by all means, but put a date as well. So I was thinking of the 31st of December, but now I'm thinking along the lines of Council Peoples that maybe we should put a date, 6 months, 31st of December. So put a date there.
Councillor? Yes.
Without going into too much detail, the rates and quantum of work would just be an extension of what we have.
Existing flood damage, we're already invested in that one.
Yep.
So that's a continuation, and then it's the professional services that we're looking at here.
But I mean, like the hourly rates that we pay, or the hours in a week or a month are of a similar, or do they have escalation on? Are we going to pay 5% more because we're extending the contract?
No, at this stage it was just a fee schedule which was up to date.
Seems in the current fee schedule.
They currently have an arrangement, there's a bit of a rise and fall for fuel costs for their vehicles and things.
The hourly rates for their staff has remained static. Did you have a further question? Councillor Plum?
Yeah, I'm sort of quite happy with that. I just don't want them, just to leisurely plod along and, and we sort of sit there tapping our fingers, I'd like to see them move on. Like when you say the 31st of December, that's 6 months.
Yeah, I'm with you, Councillor. I don't think it will take 6 months. In fact, the CEO will 3 months. It's us that are extending it.
So you're doing me a favour by giving me some breathing space.
Well, I suppose at the end of 3 months we can extend again, can't we? If need be.
Just let me go to Councillor Rogers first.
Mr Mayor, I'm quite happy with that.
So that's, sorry, that's now 3 months again.
Yeah,
That's not changed to 6
it wasn't
months.
3 months.
So you were talking 6 though, weren't you?
Well, it said 3 months.
So I think the proposal I'm hearing from the other side is 6.
Oh, okay.
Are you happy with 6?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 6 months. To negotiate for provision of services. So back on the council. Councillor, you wanted 6 months. Brackets 31st of December.
Yeah, with the date.
On or before.
On or before. Yeah.
We could actually put the date of the last meeting in there if you want.
Just for you, Mr Mayor, if, say, it's ready to go in 3 months, does that not allow us to get out of the 6 month period or not?
If it's ready to go, we'll table as soon as it's ready. That's why we go on or before. Yeah. You go up to 6 months.
As long as we're going to knock down.
Yeah, you go for up to 6 months.
Change 4 to up to.
For up to 6 months, on or before 31 December 23 and negotiate for provisions of services. So, effectively, the proposal comes for how we proceed in this space and what we do to permanently engage will come to the next meeting. We'll authorise the CEO to undertake that process and that will commence then. How that process plays out will then be governed by the timeframes required to
undertake whatever it is, whether it's public notification, calling, receiving and assessing, we could be ready to make a decision in September. And in which case then, pending the outcome of that decision, the appointment permanently of whoever, however, could happen within weeks. If it's a continuum of George Bourne, obviously then we switch to the new arrangements that are negotiated through that tender process, effective from the date we make the decision. All right, do I have a mover? Councillor Hanson, seconded Councillor Plum. Do I have any debate?
You say debate. Seeing as we're still in an open meeting, we don't want the grapevine to grab this tonight, tomorrow, and say that we're disregarding George Bourne Associates. George Bourne Associates will always be involved in some form or manner, I would imagine. I just want to say that.
We, as key decision makers around potential future contract, have to be careful that we're not publicly prejudicial of one way or the other, because then a potential competing tenderer can suggest that there's a perception of bias within the key decision makers. However, I think what you're putting on the record is that, as a strong local business supporter of council, that George Bourne Associates are not being cut loose by this decision. In fact, it's only reinvigorating our support for that business under its current contractual arrangements until such time as council can ratify what its requirements around engineering services are, so that we're not locking ourselves or a consulting engineering firm into a contract that doesn't best fit what our needs are moving forward.
Thank you. I wanted you to say something like that. I couldn't say that many words, but thank you.
We knew that's what you were trying to say.
Those in favour?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor. Are we confident? Are we confident that GBNA will be happy with the arrangement up to 6 months, or are we better off saying 3 months with a monthly option?
You met with them, so
Met with them yesterday. It was, yeah, really good.
So
it was a good discussion.
So to just further tease out the answer in clear terms to Councillor Arthur, this resolution now being extended to 6, because you probably voiced with it 3, did you?
Well, we said somewhere around that 3 mark. Up to and including 6 months gives a buffer for both of us. They're also to come back to us with their requirements from us, because in previous years the information flow probably hasn't been the best it could be both ways. We want to get those parameters right.
Anything they come back to you with would be only the parameters that they need for this extension.
It's reporting.
We're the ones that build what we need moving forward for the public, or for whatever form of.
This is more of a direction about our intent.
Yeah. Okay. Further comment? Those in favour? Against? 7-0. Meeting closed 4:05 PM.